how to transition into your business, or what is constantly being called the quiet quit, and how to do it in the right way. And the reason why this is so important is because you can screw up a lot of things doing this the wrong way. And today's video is really going to be teaching you how to do the quiet quit. If you don't know what that means, because it wasn't what we called it, we didn't actually even have a name for it when I did it. But if you're in a position where you need your job because you have bills, but you have something else that you're passionate about that you can also make money from, and you're wanting to know how to transition into that, that's exactly what we're going to be talking about today. So what is the quiet quit? It seems to be a common catchphrase. It's kind of following the whole Great Resignation. And what's happening is lots of people are leaving their job, everything that's going on with COVID and the rest of the world. And people have found out that they're kind of in this position where they need their job, because obviously we all have bills that need to be paid. However, they're not happy with their career. They're not fulfilled by the work that they're doing. They're in a job that potentially has no real future. It's not even their dream or their passion anymore, and life is just kind of dull. So what do you do? Well, they're calling that the quiet quit. And what it means is you're kind of quitting your job, but you're not really quitting your job. And now, although I think this can be very damaging advice, I think that it can also be a great time or the perfect way to transition into your own business into the future. And so I want to give you some advice on the things that I did or that I've seen people do that have made them very successful coming into this entrepreneurial world, or getting out of the job that they don't like and taking some more control into their own lives. Now, is the quiet quit even new? It's not new. It's exactly what I did over 12 years ago before I transitioned into business. And now I'm a serial entrepreneur. So I went to school for mechanical engineering. I was working in engineering. However, the longer I was there and the more jobs that I had, the more I realized that that just really wasn't my path. That the people who were working there for a long period of time, if I was able to change my position with them, if I could switch bodies like a Freaky Friday type thing, and we could switch bodies, I didn't want to do it. And if I was going to stay there for 20, 30, 40 years, would I want to have the life that they had? And in all of the cases, the answer was no. Even though I had a great paying job, I had the pension and the benefits that everybody says that you should have. I was working for the government. I had vacation time. I had sick time. I had all the time that I wanted to do. I really didn't have to do a lot of work, if you understand a government job. And it was kind of what everybody said that I should do. And that if I did that, I would find happiness. I would work there for 30 or 40 years and travel happily into the sunset and retire and live forever. And that unfortunately just wasn't reality. And now, don't get me wrong, it's not that I didn't like the job. I didn't mind the job. I didn't really like my boss. I didn't really like a lot of the managers, but the job was okay. It was fine. I could have done it longer. But I kind of got into this spot where every day I was waking up and I dreaded almost being alive. I dreaded every day I had to go into work. I didn't want to get out of bed. I didn't want to be to work on time. And that's unusual for me. If you know me, I'm almost always on time, pretty much always. And so that was a strange place to be in. I didn't really have any passion or any fire. And kind of what happens when you live like that long enough, you try to find ways to have fulfillment, whether it's through alcohol or going out and doing stuff, things that you wouldn't naturally want to do, but because you're so bored with your life and there's no flavor and no passion, you kind of go out to find some excitement. And we generally look for excitement in all the wrong places because we're compensating for the dullness and everything else in our life. And usually when we do that, we end up costing ourselves a lot of money. A lot of people get into retail therapy, and so they work so hard to make all this money and get a good job, but they're so miserable at it that they try to find some fulfillment in spending all of their money. And that's okay if that's what you want to do, but that's not where I wanted to be at the end of my life, to where I was 60, 65, 70 years old, had made a couple $1 million, but I had nothing to show for it, nothing but my pockets turned inside out and a cabinet full of medicine. That wasn't the life that I wanted. However, being in financial services for 9 years, that's where I saw almost everybody was, or that almost everybody is headed. So if that sounds like you and you're maybe considering doing this thing called quiet quitting, I want to give you some advice so that you don't have to destroy your relationships, you don't have to hurt your credibility, you don't have to implode your bank account, and you don't have to hurt your character. And to me, that's probably going to be one of the these are probably going to be the most important things for you to have success in whatever it is that you're going to go into anyway. Because if you do this the wrong way and you piss off all the people that you've been working with, your ability to have a good name and a good brand going into whatever it is you want to do is just going to be that much harder. So first, I want to start off with the warning signs. Warning, warning, right? That if you're hearing this alarm go off, you need to pay attention to these things. Because what the quiet quit is going to tell you to do is to limit your passion, right? A lot of us, especially if you're watching this video and you're trying to change your life, you're probably the type of person like I am that you want to succeed. You want to do something bigger. You have this drive to do something else. And that oftentimes goes into your work. The challenge when we're at a job is it doesn't always mean that it's appreciated. And oftentimes your reward for doing well at your job is that you get more work and they put more stress on you. Well, the people who don't do anything, they get less work. And so it's kind of this backwards relationship. And what will happen is they say, well, put less of your heart and less of your effort into your job, and then that way you can start focusing on other things. And that's absolutely accurate. However, the warning signs, again, warning, warning, is that if you do too little, if you completely don't show up to your job, you're showing up late, you're leaving early, you run the risk of being fired long before you're ready to actually transition. Number two is if you're working on your new thing that you're trying to transition into and you get caught doing it while you're at work, that can also cause problems for you that kind of relate with number one. And number three is you can hurt your company that you work for. And we all want to stick it to the man sometimes, or our manager, or our boss, or whatever. However, this doesn't look good on you and it doesn't look good on your reputation, which means it makes it harder on your business later. So why do I mention this? Well, because nobody else does. That's why you watch this channel, because I think a lot of people forget about these things. They want to get you excited about the quiet quit and just go do it. Screw your boss, screw everybody else, and just go start this thing. And although that's kind of the right thing, it's really not the right thing. And now on the flip side of that coin is, what are the dangers if you don't do it? What if you don't follow your passion? And the risk there is that you can lose your soul. I felt like the longer I was in my job and the longer I was there and the more I hated it, the more I lost a part of myself. If you continue to keep doing it past that, you're gonna have a hard time even being happy. I think this is how a lot of people end up old and bitter. And then as you start building the rest of your life, it's such a weak foundation that I think it's going to impact every other area of your life. People generally end up losing their faith because they keep asking for help, and their help is to get out of their job, but they keep doing the same thing over and over again because they're scared. It makes it hard on your health, because if you're not happy and you're not excited about the future, your body tends to deteriorate faster. It's not good on your finances because you're not really putting a lot of effort into it and you don't really have the opportunity to make much money. So you're gonna end up broke at the end anyway. It's also gonna hurt your relationships because you're not gonna have the time or the fulfillment or the energy to do the things and be around those people. You're gonna be negative when you're around them and they're not gonna like hanging out with you anymore. So there are huge risks with not doing it as well. And I think that's also important to understand. And for me, when I weighed those two, the not doing it, the not pursuing my passion and finding my happiness, I didn't even know what it was at the time, but I knew that I needed to do something else. And so I know if I didn't do that, it would long-term be way more unhappy for me than the short-term discomfort of not knowing what I was doing and being scared and worried and stressed out about all of these things and money and what to do and what people would think of me. But I made that quiet quit over 12 years ago. It just wasn't called that back then, and it wasn't nearly as popular as it is today. So if you're going to do this and you want the least collateral damage to friends and family, coworkers, the business you're working for, your bank account, then this is going to be really important for you to understand. Number one, you've got to do it in a spirit of making your life better. I've heard a lot of people say, well, screw them and screw these people and my parents because they don't think I can do it. The challenge with that is you won't have the energy to sustain. It's a very bright burning fire, but it doesn't last a long time. It's kind of like a firework. It feels and it looks great for a very short period of time, but then after that, when the real work sets in, you're gonna have a hard time staying motivated if you're doing it on anger or spite versus if you're doing it out of excitement and joy for your future. Number 2 is it'd be really important to have a plan. You need a game plan because you cannot quiet quit forever. They're not going to allow you to do the bare minimum and not actually be very focused on your work for long periods of time in most cases. So what that means is you have a finite amount of time where you can do this that you need to have a game plan of getting out. And it's probably gonna need to be in the next 6 to 12 months. Anything longer than that, you're going to just end up in this spot where you're not applying much effort and you're also not applying effort to get out. And you're just gonna get kind of stuck in that rat wheel. So it's gotta be a fairly short time frame, maybe a year, because you can stay excited for a year maybe, definitely 6 months, but anything longer, that's gonna be a real challenge. So have a plan. How much money do you need to have saved to get to that point? What are the things that you're willing to cut back on? Maybe going out with friends, maybe hanging out with family on the weekends, maybe that $30 you would spend on all those kids parties that you go to for all your cousins and stuff. Maybe you need to find a way to do something that's creative so you can save some more money. That way you have a plan moving forward. So how much money do you need to have? What time frame do you need to have it in? And what things can you work on now outside of the job? So do your 8 hours, do whatever your time is. Outside of that, what are the things that you can start putting in place? How can you start practicing getting good that when you're ready to transition, when your time comes, you're ready to make that move? And number 3, as you get into it, it's important to have faith and just stick to it. There are so many times where my biggest breakthrough was when I thought I was at rock bottom. When you have almost nothing left and you're holding on to the last little portion of that string and finances are almost gone or completely gone or sometimes in the negative, you're like, you don't think you have any other solutions. I think, at least for me as somebody of faith, that's where God shows up because you realize it's outside of you. There's nothing that you can physically do at that point except for just hold on with your fingertips. And every time I've been in a situation like that and my focus was on God and not my situation, I got through it. Something would happen out of nowhere, something completely out of my control, something that I couldn't have asked for or predicted in any form or fashion. Something would show up. But I had to dangle there for a while sometimes by my fingertips, just barely getting by, just barely being able to make it. Sometimes not even that. And then something would happen. The dam would break and everything would start flowing through. And then I would go through a period where it was great. I was just flowing with everything and I'd get back to a similar situation, a little bit higher level, and have the same exact challenge. Or not the same exact challenge, but the same exact kind of scenario where I'm at my wit's end. There's nothing I can do. There's nothing else that I couldn't work any harder. I couldn't do any more. There was nothing that I could do. There had to be a force from outside that made something happen. And it finally would. So you've got to have the persistence and the faith and the strength to endure that process, because part of this is going to be your test on what you can actually endure, because you will always have that thought process of, I can always go back to that job. And it's kind of like if you've ever dated somebody before, they don't seem that bad the longer it is since you've dated them. And then as soon as you're around them for a little while, you're like, I remember now. Okay, this is why it did not work out. Same thing will happen with that thought about your job. You go, oh, it'd be easy enough for me to go do this. At least I know I could make $50,000 or $100,000 a year. At least I could go do that. I'm used to making $200,000 a year, and I was so comfortable, and I had all these nice things that you didn't own anyway, but they felt so nice and comfortable, and maybe I could just go back to that and lose my soul again. It wasn't that bad. You're always going to have that temptation as you're in the desert of despair on your way to paradise. And so if this was helpful for you. If this was helpful for you, make sure you smash that like button and also hit the subscribe as well. And there are some great things that are coming up. I'm going to be talking about some biblical business principles and some biblical money principles, things that I think will help you out a lot. This search that I've been on making sure that I'm on the right path and that I'm staying biblically true and not just what I want to be true. So I've been really diving into that to make sure I'm staying on the right path. And if that's something that you're interested in, make sure you look for those videos. They're going to be coming up soon. And I also have a video called Increase Income, which will help you to understand maybe some of the things that you could transition into, or maybe a job that you could get into that would pay you more money, that would expedite this whole savings process, that you could start what your actual passion is. And so I think that would be very helpful for you as well. And if you're interested in being notified of those things, don't forget to smash the little bell, because the bell will remind you or give you an update when a new video comes out. That way you don't have to remember to check back. It will let you know when there's new videos, and that'd be very helpful for you. So as always, I will catch you guys later. Bye.